Peter said he's not seeing anything. Sorry, Peter, don't you see the white screen? Maybe it's confusing you. Yeah, I can also see the YouTube has started.
Yes, it has started.
Great. Let's go. So we are going to look at, let me put here the file. We are going to look at high order functions. Now, when you hear the word Highorder, don't be put off or don't be discouraged. High order means a function which, I see nothing, only us talking. Ooh. Okay, so Peter tried to do something because I've started the session on YouTube and also here on Zoom. So I was saying that high order functions should not intimidate you. Okay, high order functions, they should not intimidate you because they are functions that take in functions as arguments. So if you remember, last time we spoke about arguments, and the arguments are really the values that we pass to functions when we've invoked functions that accept parameters. Okay. Yes, and we said that we specify parameters when we are creating a function or defining a function, while we specify the arguments when we are calling the function. So an example would be, I would put a function here and say greeting. Then I will also put a function here and say name, call it name. Okay, like that. And like that. Then inside this function, I will specify name like that. Then in the body of this function, I will echo, no, I won't echo, I will return. By the way, there is a reason why I return as opposed to echoing. Usually or normally, functions should handle one, excuse me, OH had disconnected, so I'm adding him back. So functions are supposed to handle one task. So if you make the function echo, it might handle a lot of tasks unknowingly. So we try to not to do a lot of things in it. So here I will say, hello. Or can I put, yeah, I'll first do that. Then what I'm going to do is I will put a function here, function call. I'll call it name equals to name. But you see the name I'm putting here shows that it's being, it's a function call. So in order not to confuse you, I will put this greet name. Then I will concatenate using the dot. I'll concatenate greet name here. And then I'll make this function over here return something. For now, I'll make it return David. Okay, there you go. Now, what am I going to do? I will call, you see, excuse me, you see that greeting is as a parameter, but we are invoking that parameter as a function. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, this one, instead of calling this one name, I'm going to say get name in order for us not to really get confused. Then right here, I'll say greeting brackets, and then I put in the get name function, get name, and I think I can just do this without invoking it, because it will be passed and then invoked. Now, okay, let me first save and I see if it to bring an error. Okay, so can anybody guess what is gonna happen if I stop here?
I think it will return, but then the value will be left in memory. Shall not be able to see the value.
That's what you think.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, David. So let's do something and we see. And actually this time I may not even go to the browser. I want to show you something. Let me hope it will work. I need to remove this debug, then zoom in a little. So this time I want to do PHP index.php. So it says undefined constant get name. So this thing that you see that I'm doing is to show you that you can execute PHP on the command line. Not every time that you'd be required to execute it in the browser, but the only difference is that the PHP setup must be a little bit more configured for your operating system for you to be able to access PHP on here at for you to be able to access it on here at the terminal. So if to test if you can access PHP on the terminal, you can just write PHP in the command line and put -v. If it brings a response, that means PHP has been set up to run in the command line. But if it doesn't bring a response, today's session is not about going in the command line. You can still test out the code in the browser. Okay, thank you for understanding. And they are saying that they can't get the name, this function over here. So I'll try to call it normally. I think I've forgotten the syntax a little bit. Pardon me, my keyboard looks to be acting up. I don't know why. Has it just run out of battery? Okay, let me use this one for now. And then this one, okay. All right, it's working. So I'll save and I'll test. So what are they saying? So you can see they are saying that undefined function. Oh God, I get it. So they are saying David as a function. This thing that this function has returned, they are seeing it as a function. That's why they are saying fatal error, unquote, error, call to undefined function David. Because when we return, this function has been invoked and the return value has been put here. The return value has been put here as opposed to being put here. So what we can do is, let me see if I change, no, let me see. Let me just go to internet and try to figure out, how do they call them? Custom high order function in PHP. I just want to get the syntax and yeah, oh, site point. Let me see. First class, and then so we have this and we have this. So okay, higher order function that takes to function. Oh, I think what I had missed is this. And also I had done a mistake. Actually, I've really remembered the mistake, that one of the mistakes I did. One of the mistakes I did was to return. Oh, I assigned it, I didn't return it. Okay, then I don't think that that's a mistake. So I think I just need to put here callable and then do that, and we see what is going to happen. But I need to see how they are invoking this. So they are invoking it as high order function echo. So you see how they are, yeah, you see how they are passing the argument to the function. They are passing it as a string. So my mistake that I was doing here, I was supposed to pass it as a string here. So save. Looks like my keyboard has run out of batteries, so it's sorry about my delays. So here, you see that? So David, did you remember the answer you gave us, that you think it won't return anything? It won't show anything because the returned things will remain in memory. So we need to echo the greeting function, because it's just, it gets the return value of this and it concatenates it to the word hello, and we expect it to do what? To return things. Okay, now we are going to echo and see if we can get hello David. You see, we've got hello David. There you go, guys. So a high order function is a function that takes in another function. However, we have to specify callable keyword when we are specifying the parameters that are going to be functions. And then when we are calling that function, we, inside the body of another function, we reference it like this. So you put the value that you've put here, and then you put parentheses on it. Now, what I don't know is what would happen if we passed something, but let's reserve that for now, and then we build another function. But before we do that, I would like to pause. Is anyone facing confusion? Does anyone have a question?
Yes, me, I've not yet understood because I'm not seeing the function that is taking the other function as an argument.
Okay, that's a good one. So someone else? Okay, who has understood and they help me to explain this in your in simple words, or how you understand it? Who can volunteer?
Let me take it on. So we have a function. Okay, we defined a function at line 7 called getName
Okay.
that returns the name David.
Okay.
And then we defined another function, greeting, that takes in an argument name. Yes.
No,
and then
takes in a parameter.
Oh, sorry, takes in a parameter name, and then calls name, invokes name, because you can see the variable name, there are parentheses after the variable name.
On which line?
On line 12.
Mm.
So that's why we added the keyword callable to signify to PHP that this is a function that we are taking in. So in our case, greeting is the high order function, and then getName is the other function that's being passed as an argument to the greeting function.
Wow.
So we store the value of returned by in the function body of greeting. We store the value returned by the function name after it is invoked into the variable greetName, and then we concatenate it to the string using the dot operator, and then we return. But this thing is kept in memory. You can't see it because earlier we had not echoed it, but now we'll be able to see it. Yes.
Okay. Wow, man. I promise you 20K Uganda shillings.
Thank you.
Wow. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you very much. So, Sharon, has that helped in a way? David, could you just mention on which line we are using both of these functions?
On which line we are using both of these functions? I think on line 11, we are defining the function greeting, and then we are passing an argument name as a function because we are using the keyword callable before it to signify to PHP that it's a function. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So, and on line 16?
Yeah, on line 16, that's when we are calling. We are calling it actually with the high order function. Yes. Okay,
that's powerful. So, Sharon, if you had not understood here, this string that I've highlighted is the function we are passing to the greeting function. So the greeting function is being invoked, and in its parentheses, we are putting in getName as an argument. But once it gets in the body of the function, it will be turned into a callable. Once it gets to the body here, because we said the parameters, we said that arguments are swapped with the parameters. So consider that getName gets to be put here, you know, and instead of having getName, of having, what happens is that here it will be getName instead of name, because getName is swapped with the name variable. And immediately the value that is in here is accessed at this line 12 and initialized to the greetName variable. And then we use, we get like a greeting, and then we attach the name that we've stored in this greetName variable, and we return them all together in line 13. After returning all of them together, we use the greeting function, and it will call the getName function, of which the getName function will return the value of David from line number 8. Yeah. Sharon, I'm over to you. On the scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the least, 10 being the highest, how do you rate your understanding of this now?
I think 5 out of 10. Could you explain to me why high order functions?
Yes, it's very, very vital sometimes. Because the reason why I've shown you this high order function, which is custom, is because when we go to the next level of PHP, sometimes instead of using for loops, for example, we may use an high order function, something like array walk, something like, so if you've not known how it works, basically from here, explain the inbuilt high order functions will be hard for you to understand. And in the PHP documentation and the documentations of other programming languages like Python, JavaScript, you are going to find high order functions. And if you don't get it from here, then trouble. In fact, I think David was quick to grasp the concept, because he has interacted with high order functions in JavaScript, before, but not the custom ones, usually the what? Okay, yeah, the other thing we said is that a function should do one independent job. So if a function should do an independent job, we don't want a function which is supposed to have a greeting word processing the name. We want another function to handle the name. So that's why we use them. The other thing is that code readability. If I give someone this function and I tell him that, what, if you want to generate something and this function, put it, someone has serious background, kindly help someone. Yeah, thank you very much. So if you would implement the get name in any way you want, and its value would be passed on to the greeting. So this is a greeting function, very, very small use case, but there are use cases which are large that might need you to use this, yeah. All right, so I think now we can proceed to something. We can proceed to using a high order function which takes in a variable. Does it make sense? So which takes in a parameter as well. So for example, we can say function, and this time around, we are not going to say get name. We are going to say, what do I want to say? Excuse me. There is someone who wrote in the chat. Unfortunately, currently, looks like I can't see the chat. I don't know why Zoom is not showing it. Oh, it has shown it. All right, thank you. So we are going to, oh, wait, Caroline, I would like to hear your views about the high order function before we continue. Thank you for understanding. Kindly unmute and say something about it. All right, over to you, Henry. Could you say something about high order functions? Just unmute.
I'm trying to pick slowly.
Yeah, it's very okay.
I messed up the last class, so I'm like 2 legs behind, but I'm picking up.
Okay. Yeah. So for you,
for the class, watching the other thing while reading some book to take a good grasp of functions.
Okay, nice. All right, thank you for the feedback. Peter. Peter, over to you.
Yeah, hello.
Yes, please.
You're saying?
I was saying, say something about Highorder functions.
Oh, that was still, I'm not looking at the code because you.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Oh, wow. It's somehow like hard to grasp, but I was asking something. Could you give an example of an array walk?
An array walk. I think the example is here. There's this example here, which is the Highorder dynamic duo array map and the array filter, where they have array of numbers 1 up to 5. Then array map, example of taking an inline anonymous function. So what happens is that you see this function here? Function num, and then here it says return num times 2. But here you see the array of nums is passed as the second argument to array map. So this thing will print out 2, 4, 6, and whatever. Because it gets these values, it traverses all, loops them, and it multiplies each one by 2, and then it returns, You can also see the array filter here, which takes in a function called is even, and is even takes in a number, and that number is divided by 2, modular, not divided, but modulus by 2. And if the return is 0, if the answer is 0, they return that number because it means it's an even number. Then they pass in this function is even as a string. The way we passed get name to the array filter, and the filter will give you 2, 4, because 2 and 4 are the only numbers you can divide by 2 and get a 0 in this chunk. So I never wanted to get to these array filters before we see how it's actually implemented. But I think you can see now, if you did not have an array map, you would have to write a for loop. But when you write a for loop, you would fail to store those numbers to a single variable. You would really fail. You would have to find a lot of forgeries. The code readability won't be really easy, you see. So here they are showing us Highorder functions. You can see they are showing us these functions, and somewhere they are creating the Highorder function. But it's okay. So guys, let me go back to the code, and you tell us, Peter, because I thought you wanted me to explain that so that you can now turn back to this. Hello.
Hey, you are still with me.
Yeah.
I wanted the reason I wanted to go there because I thought there was some resemblance to this.
Yeah, there was. There was actually.
Turns out I'm still learning. Let's continue.
Okay, thank you very much. So yeah, I've not yet heard from Caroline. I've heard from 2 people. Yeah, one thing you should know is that some of the things you are going to understand them when you practice. Some of them you will not understand them unless you practice, okay? All right. So we want to create a function called sum. And in this function, we are going to pass in number 1. No, we are not going to pass in number 1. We are going to pass in numbers. Yes, please.
What's the best way of practicing? Doing exercises.
You cannot do exercises alone, because when you do exercises alone, you depend on someone's assumption. And if you fail those exercises, you would feel offended. The best way to practice is doing code. Think of things and write code. Go read the tutorials, and when you read those tutorials, write code. When I'm typing code here on the screen, I assume that you are also typing code, even though I may be a little bit faster, than you, because I'm the one who is initiating. I expect that by the time we finish the program, you would have typed at least 50% of what I typed. And that is developing your muscle memory, your brain muscle, so that it grips to the code and understands, and you start coming up with it. Because look at me, I come up with examples while we are in the session. I'm not coming up with the examples before the session. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that is so insightful.
All right, thank you.
It brings in the real life.
All right, you are welcome. So we are going to tell this function, we are asking this function to return a sum of numbers. Now, we are going to say, is array, this is an inbuilt function in PHP, numbers. So if this is number, if these numbers are an array, what we are going to do is you are going to put it in an if statement. What is going to happen is simple. We're going to say, if they are an array, kindly loop them using for each, whereby you are going to get from the numbers, you get the number as a number. And what are you going to do? You are going to sum, shall put a function, we shall put something variable here, which we are going to call, oh my goodness, what has the keyboard done? Okay. So we are going to put a variable here, and we shall call it sum equals to 0. Then here we are going to say that every time you loop a number, add it to sum by doing this equals number. And after doing all of that, return the sum. But what if, just what if, the numbers are not an array? You return false. You return false. So someone would have expected an else statement here, but they are not seeing it. And the reason is the return statement is meant to stop the execution of code. So what that means is that we are saying here that if the numbers that have been passed are an array, what will happen is that they will be looped, and this sum, which is 0, is going to be added a number at a certain index. And then when all of this for loop is done running, the code will come to this line. And once it returns the sum, this code here on line number 29 will be ignored, won't be executed. The function will stop there. And you can only use return statements in functions. You cannot use them in plain code. You have to have a defined code block, like the way we've defined our code block as return sum, and then we can use the return. Now we are saying that, but if it checks and this return is false, in other words, the is array return is false, all of this code in the if statement is not gonna be executed. The code that will be executed is the return false. So then we shall go here and say, oh, yeah, and say function get sum shall put callable here and say, and so what? Sum generator, and then shall go inside here and we say if if sum generator as a function is not equal to false, is not equal to false, then you're gonna go ahead and return for now sum generator. Oh, no, this is ambiguous code. Let me do this here. So we are going to define the numbers here equals to 1, 10, 20, 30. So these are our sample numbers. We shall pass them to the generator, sum generator, and then say that my sum equals to sum generator numbers. And then here we can say if my sum is not false, then return my sum. I think you see why I said that the code I was going to write was ambiguous. It's because it was verbose. It's because I was going to call the function twice, which was wrong. So it returns the sum, otherwise it will return false. So this is another example where the generator takes in an argument. All right. Then here we can call get sum. And when we put in get sum, we are going to get this function here. Get where? Get sum, return sum is the one we are gonna put here. So what do you think is gonna happen? Let's let me hope people are not sleeping because it's late. I don't know what time you sleep, but I understand it's getting to 11 or midnight. Yeah, yeah, it's not even a 22:30. So anyone who can tell me what they think is gonna happen here? Are we together?
I think it will return. It will return. It will return the sum.
You think it will return the sum?
Yeah, 1 plus 10 plus 20, 40, 50, 60, 61.
Okay. And shall we be able to see the sum?
No. Shall not
Okay,
be able
let's
to see
see.
the sum.
Okay, let's see. So here we're gonna
Let's
say
go back up to the code.
from line 18.
Yes, I wanted to see from that line.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, down, go down.
Up to?
Yeah, you can really go down, yes, because I wanted to see how the first function was rhyming so that I can go
Okay.
to up to this function of line 32.
Yeah, there you go. Wow.
Okay, so yes, I also agree with David to return the sum for those numbers.
Okay. All right. So yeah, it is outputting hello David because we are still calling this function here. So let me stop calling it. So we are not seeing anything, but at least we are not seeing anything on the console, but at least we are also not seeing any error. So if we do this, we shall get the sum, which is 61. For those who are not seeing, there you go. It is 61. I don't know why it puts this dollar percentage symbol. I'll research and find out why PHP, but still, if I went to the browser here, that's it. So we've looked at how we can implement our own high order functions. Okay, I'm going to share this code right now via DeepPest. So those of you who don't know DeepPest, please look here at the screen. It's
but you had previously said that you would want us to watch the video so that you will know that we are following up.
Yes, for this one, let me give it to you because I've detected a lot of lack of understanding you get, and I know functions are one of those serious topics in programming that you don't want. So I'll give you the code just for you to put it somewhere, and as you are watching, review, so that if you've not understood, you hear David's explanation, you hear my explanation. And by the way, these codes expire. So if I give you the link, you need to make sure you copy that link and copy the code away immediately. Otherwise, if it expires, you won't have this code again. So let me put it in the chat over here. And everyone who has finished copying it and saving it somewhere, please let me know. After doing that, you type in the chat that I'm done or done. Just write done in the chat after copying the code. Okay, thank you. Oh, that's great. That's great. 2 people, 3, okay, 4, okay. Yeah. All right. Is OH on? All right. So guys, let me see. So we were supposed to look at best principles of custom functions, but I believe now, okay, thank you for copying. So I believe now we cannot go to those principles because of time. I understand that they are something like 5 or like that, but the words, they are like 6. The words, you know. So we shall discuss them in the next level. Now, let me take this opportunity to congratulate all of you. Let me, even before doing that,